guys. Welcome to episode 8.
Hi.
We are on our last week of the Parenting Square, which so far we've been at the beginning, which is the boss, which is roughly 0 to 10 years old, which it is what it is. You boss your kid around and tell them what to do, and
pretty much
they have to do it. Sometimes they don't, but...
And then there's timeouts.
Then there's sit on the stairs, kid. And then there's the trainer, which is mid-elementary through middle school, which is I'm training you to succeed.
I'm showing you what to do, now do it.
Yep. Then there's the coach, which is you're doing it and I'm helping. I'm creating a game plan, teaching you how to succeed in the game of life.
And then we review the tapes.
And then we review the tapes. Yes.
If you're one of the creepy parents that like have the stalker chips on your kids,
I videotape your
or
bad
a drone
behavior.
that follows your child around. We're giving people ideas now.
I videotape your behavior and we go back and we watch film. And then I tell you exactly where things went wrong.
If you're one of the houses with like rings in it, the Ring security video cameras and all that stuff, like that can settle disputes these days.
That's true. I'm pretty sure that as a parent, I would not want to go back and watch film of where something went wrong, because I probably play a gigantic part in that. So not good. And then we are on our final one, which is Friend, episode 8. So it is the last corner of the square, which this one is good.
Yeah.
We joked around about this one off air, if you will, because we just see it literally constantly.
Yeah, people want to skip ahead.
Yeah, well, and I think that really parents, where they struggle is the in between, the transitions. So you either see parents on the extremes, like it's either I am the boss constantly or I am the friend constantly,
right.
Or parents are on the same page where it's like one parent's the boss, one parent's the friend.
I know.
And then there's like, oh no, you wait till your dad comes home. Because he's going to get you.
I'm going to go ask mom.
Yeah.
She'll say yes.
Yeah, right. Mom loves me and she wants me to have friends, so I'm going to go ask her. Yeah.
Well, and it's that parenting style you talked about, like episode 1 or something, where you ask permission. You get a permission from your kid to do absolutely everything and anything.
Yeah.
That's actually like where the kid is the boss. It's not nobody's a friend there. The kid is the boss.
Yeah, it is the opposite. The kid tells you what to do, and you are actually being controlled by a small, irrational human.
Oh, never a good situation.
Which is good. All right, so let's talk about Friend a little bit. The Friend Square. I think this is also super difficult because you spend so much time. Trying to put yourself in your
just the good parts of yourself.
Into
this person.
Right, into this person. But you're also trying to insert yourself into the situations of their life. And this is like the one point of the square where you have to treat your kids the same way that you treat your friends, in which you don't overstep your bounds, which is super difficult.
Yep.
Especially when you've been overstepping your bounds for 18 years. And you have to almost let them go about their life, and when they ask you for things is when you go, okay, this is what you want.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, which I think is difficult. It's super hard. Like even my 2.5-year-old, sometimes it's like, all right, we're gonna let her fail on that one, and then we'll see if she asks us for help.
And they never do.
Well, yeah. She does now because she started figuring out that she gets stuff out of that. But I don't know if that's not good, probably. But I think it's super hard to sit there and just watch over and over and over again and be like, oh, I made that mistake in my early 20s. Oh,
Please don't make that mistake again.
I made that mistake when I was 19. And I think it's harder when you're a mom and you have a girl, and then when you're a dad and you have a boy and you're like, I know exactly what he's doing. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
Be better than me.
Yeah. And this really is, like we even talked about in the coach of like letting things play out, and you have to let the play like go and see where it's in and then coach them. And this really is like you have to let things play out. And when you start overstepping your bounds is when your kids are like, dude, I cannot do this anymore. I feel like you're trying to control me, and I'm
Right.
an adult.
Right. And you really have to focus more on the end goal of keeping relationship with your kids at this stage than what they are or are not doing in their life. It becomes even more important to hone in on that relationship aspect because at the end of the day, they are an adult, and that's the only thing that keeps you guys tethered together is the relationship at that point because they don't. I mean, there is that stage where you're still living at home and all that, and I think the away at college years are some of the harder ones. 'Cause I went away to college and then I'd come back, breaks in summertime and stuff. So that there was that weird dynamic of I got to be an adult that made my own decisions and didn't have to report to anybody for 8 months out of the year. And then I'd come home and now I'm back under the rules of the house, but are they still the same rules because I am an adult, but you're still footing the bill on a lot of things.
What is this, prison?
So it's like you go back and forth, and like my first summer home from college, my freshman year, I think, was one of the harder transition moments in my relationship with my parents because we were all confused as to what the rules were now.
Yeah, well, and I think that that's pretty kind of funny and ironic for me because then I was thinking about it, and I didn't come back home. I actually left for college, and in the summers I found other things to do where I would still be like my own adult. Mm-hmm. Like I didn't want to come back. And I don't think my parents were bad at all. Like, I don't think that I came home and they were like, all right, remember, like, this is my house kind of thing. But even, like, in my own mind, I associated that with, like, I associated me going to even be a camp counselor or something in the summer as, like, I was still getting my own choices to do whatever I wanted and my own freedom to do whatever I wanted, which I thought for me was beneficial. But I mean, not everybody is in that zone, obviously. But
well, I think one of the added difficulties in the transitional stages is all the technology that you have to navigate as well. Because I remember that being like one of the linchpins of like, what are the rules now and all that? Because cell phones were just now becoming a thing, and texting was just coming out around my freshman year of college. So that's how old I am. I had a lovely little flip phone. It was super cool because it had a screen on the front that told the time.
You did not. Wow.
I know.
So this was like before the Razor even.
Yeah, it was still a black and white screen.
Oh, no, this is bad. This is bad for me even. If you're talking about like the chocolate with the little spinny guy or the Envy Touch. No. Where you had to like hit it with your knuckle in order for it to actually work?
No, this was the flip phone T9 days. I could T9 a message like no other when I drove because you had the little dot to help you figure out where you're at. It's not a touch screen. You can't do that nonsense.
It's a good thing that this is to parents and not students.
Yeah. T9 was a good era of the texting.
That was a horrible era. That was not a good era at all.
But anyways, so there were all these new, so it was new technology, it was a new stage of life, and it was kind of figuring out where family life was, where friend life was now. I am an adult, but I still live in your house, so what rules apply, what rules don't apply. My dad still wanted me to call him and let him know if I was coming home late. Until the night I stayed out till like 2 a.m. with my youth group, and he said, "Don't ever call me again on your way home."
So really, the plan is just
yeah. Again, good thing students shouldn't be listening to this.
You should stay out super late to where you annoy them and wake them up, and that'll get them off your back.
But I think relationship, and there needs to be an underlying base of trust that you did the best you could as a parent and you raised a halfway decent human being that is going, like, you figured it out. At one point you knew as little as they did, and you figured it out for better or worse, and just trust that relationship and what you've instilled in them is going to get them to be a better version of themselves, basically.
Well, and I think one of the things that make it so difficult, and what I tell parents all the time when they're talking about their student, is like, or what we even tell our youth staff all the time, like, you just forget what it was like to be them, and you forget what was in your head then, and you forget how much, like, when your parents told you what to do, you were like, if I was just 8 inches taller and 50 pounds heavier, I would take my dad out right now. Like that. Like that kind of thought. Or like when you're in middle school, like, dude, we were all that horrible in middle school. But you forget, like,
Right.
and you forget, but you also forget, like, the deep insecurities that you have when you're 12. Like, you forget how badly you want to fit in. And I mean, some adults are still in that zone. It's not like some of those things you don't ever grow out of. But like sometimes you just forget what it's like to be in that age. You forget what it's like to go to high school every day from like 7 to 3 or whatever.
Right.
Like you forget what it's like to be in that realm and constantly worried about your social image and all this kind of thing. So, I'm always like, just put yourself back in their shoes of what were you like when you were 18, and if you feel yourself pushing too hard, they probably also feel like you're pushing too hard. Like right now, you're overstepping a little bit.
And so Dave Ramsey, I watch Dave Ramsey videos on YouTube.
Yeah, you do.
All that, like, it's interesting what people call in about sometimes. But a lot of his, I was telling you before we started, a lot of his videos are parents calling in and saying, how do I make my kid make better decisions with money? And he always kind of gives the advice of, what kind of tone would you give to one of your friends' kids? Like your best friend's kid, you would probably talk to them about this differently than you would your own kid. He's like, that's the tone you need to make with your kid. And you probably need to back off a little bit because they've heard it a million times at this point and they're done hearing about it. So I think that's a good comparable, that when you are starting to hit into this friend stage of life, like before you react and think, oh, I got to fix this before my kid messes up. Like, how would you approach it for one of your friends or one of your friends' kids? It would be a different tone, a different posture. It would be a, hey, this is kind of my opinion, but I know you don't have to listen to it or take it. But I just want to make sure that I've said this so that down the road you don't say, well, why didn't you tell me that I was making a bad choice?
Right. This is my personal experience. I'm going to tell you what has happened when I've been in a similar scenario. And then after 5 minutes, you're out. And it's okay to come back and be like, hey, is everything okay with what we talked about? To re-up with that. But like, how often, I mean, usually it's not like giving advice. It's like, hey, you should do this. And if you don't do this, you're going to fail miserably.
Trust me, I know.
But that's you at some point, which is here when you're sending them off. I would even, or Orange would even say, before you send them off.
Yeah, I think they recommend the senior year.
The senior year, you should be.
Year.
It should be like they're already in college, because it's a safe place to give freedom away. But that's literally what you're doing in the friend stage. Is you're like, this is your world. You need to go live it. You need to experience it. I'm here for you when you need it.
Right.
And it doesn't matter what you come back with. I will help you get through it somehow. Like, you know that at least I'm always in your corner for when you come back. So, I think that this is so hard to get to, but when you do it too early, then your kid does whatever in the world they want. And
whatever
it's
they see on YouTube.
A hot mess.
This is how the Tide Pod challenge came to be.
Yeah. Well, but that's not even, like, I know so many kids that I grew up with who their parents were like, oh yeah, you need to experience something at 14, and then they let them like drink in their house, or they let them smoke weed. Or,
I feel like that was the huge like saying mentality when I was growing up. Probably yours is, well, I'd rather them drink in the house where it's safe. It's like, no, right now you're not in the friend stage yet. Like, you're still supposed to be the parent and help give them the guidelines for good life choices. So, usually, like, the mean girl, the mean girl's mom is like the quintessential, like, I want to be their friend, the cool mom, and worried about. But
they legitimately feel like there isn't consequence for their actions, and even then, you don't understand what. Like, most of the time, you don't really know what you're setting them up for in the future. But going to the friend stage too early is actually incredibly dangerous, I think. But also because when they become parents, they even think that you weren't a friend enough.
Right.
Or they think that they didn't have enough structure. Either way is bad. And if you're not a friend enough...
Like boomerang one way or the other.
It may have stopped. It may have stopped with them of, like, I experienced drinking and now it's fine. But what they let their kid experiment with in their house is much different. And then you're the grandparent. And you're like, I never let you do that.
You didn't know you let me do that.
Yeah, right.
So yeah, I think making sure you don't skip ahead and as difficult as it can be sometimes, enjoying the stage you're in and helping your kid understand where the guardrails are as their world gets bigger. Because I think that's the other danger of skipping to the friend stage too soon is you open up the world bigger than they can comprehend. So like being a friend to your 7-year-old, like they're still barely aware that other people exist and that they should care about them. Like the world still centers so much around them and that what they do doesn't give any consequences to other people, but everything that happens to them is a big consequence that should be dealt with immediately. So if you become a friend and just open up the whole world to them because it's an option, like you sabotage your kid in that moment because they just can't handle all of that opportunity. So it's kindness to be a parent that steps through that with their kid versus just being the friend in the Gilmore Girls environment the whole time.
Yeah, and I think it's funny because I equate it a little bit, just a way faster paced version. But when I was a camp counselor, they always used to tell us all the time. They were like, when you get your kids on the first day of the week, they're like, be super strict. And then as the week goes on, just loosen the reins. And then where their threshold is of making mistakes seems to be way less than it is more. Because when you... And I'm not saying that if you're a parent who has gone friend zone too early, you can't retract that and make it better now. You can. But when you go there too early, it's just trying... When you go backwards... it's like it's a hot mess every time. It's a hot mess.
Right. And I mean, it's just picking where you want to start back. Like, where will the biggest impact be if I need to backstep into a different square? Because we have foster kids, and so they have way different boundaries and environments from where they're coming from into our house. So we can't just lock it down from day one and say, these are the rules and like that kind of thing, because that would be whiplash to the max and destroy an opportunity of relationship building. So we see where our kids are at, and we've had them for 6 months now, I think, and we've slowly been saying, okay, now we're not going to do potty talk at the table. Like, potty talk's only bathroom stuff. And every now and then they'll be like, is this potty talk? No, that's just a nonsense word. Is this potty talk? Yes, that's a bathroom only word. Is this potty talk? That's a we never say it word. So they're learning the boundaries, and
I was gonna say, as a youth pastor, that wouldn't work well for my family.
and we give them grace so they understand that, you know, I'm going to help you understand the rules, and once I know you know the rules, now the consequences come in. And helping them understand those clear boundaries as you stair step back into whatever quadrant you should really be in.
Yeah, and I think I mean most importantly, one of the things that I think is super awesome in the friend era is, hey, do you want to go do something with me? But it's just for fun. It's just because I like being around you. It's not like there isn't like a teaching moment. Nothing. It's just like, hey, I really enjoy being around you. Do you want to come over and
let's go do petties or
Topgolf
for the guys?
As a girl dad, I guess I have to do
tea
whatever.
Parties.
But we have tea parties with Mr. Sloth.
But I mean, my family, me and my sister are grown married adults, and we go on vacation with our parents still and enjoy ourselves.
Oh yeah, we do too.
I mean, there's probably at least one or two like major moments where just like, okay, everybody get to your corners for a second. And take deep breaths.
Then
we come back together and we're good.
Always.
And I mean, we still go on when it works vacations with Alan's family too. So
well, I think it says to the people. This could work the same way with anybody. It could work the same way with your parents. It could work the same way with your siblings. It works the same way with your friends. Like when you invite somebody into your life and you're saying, hey, I just want to be around you. Like I like your presence, and so like, do you want to go do this with me? It just tells your kids that like most of their life they have thought, like, mom and dad love me, but it's because they have to.
Right.
And, like, when you start getting into this zone, it's more of the thought that mom and dad like me because they want to, and they actually really like being around me.
Right.
And I think that that's just a huge difference maker, even for your kid to be an adult. It's a huge difference maker of like, my parents just really enjoy who I am. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, yeah.
I think that's the friend zone.
That
the
is
good
it.
friend zone.
The good.
That's the friend zone you want to be in
the
at
good,
one day.
healthy friend zone. The good, healthy one. But next week we're gonna start. We're gonna talk about some other stuff. So we're done with the parenting square. But if you have any thoughts, ideas, or maybe even a story of you being a friend at some point, whether it's good, bad, whatever, you can comment on here, and we'd love to read it.
Yeah.
So it'd be funny. So we'll see you guys next week.
Next week. Bye,
next
guys.
week. See ya.